In today's video, we're going to be diving into the transformative information and the life lessons that has been displayed in Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Now, I read this book in around 2008 approximately, and it has totally revolutionized and transformed my life. The way I look at money, the way I look at business, the way I look at investment and looking at employment. Now, I learned so much from this book that when my son became 14 years old, I bought him the teen version, as you can see right here, so that he could learn the lessons as well as stated by Robert Kiyosaki, because they edited it for a teen version. And I think it was a good time for him to start learning about money because, hey, money is not taught in schools. And we are more taught in the education system to grow up and become good employees, which is not what I subscribe to. So stay tuned as I go through 5 key things that I took from the book. Put in the comment section if you have read the book already, and if it is that you have gathered more than 5. Now, there are many things that I learned from the book, but I'm only going to be selecting the top 5 things that were standout points in this book for us to discuss today. Now, whether you are just starting your personal finance journey or you're a guru in terms of planning, this information can still be informative and helpful to you. So stay tuned while I drop the gems from Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. See you soon. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. The Next Level Life Hacks, where we take the next steps needed to grow towards our financial freedom and our success. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. I highly appreciate it as I grow the channel. Now, let's give you a brief overview of what the book entails. Now, Robert grew up with a highly educated father who he termed as his poor father because his father strongly believed in the value of being an employee, getting a good education, then getting a good job, and to be an employee looking about your pension and just always reporting to a boss. While on the other hand, Robert's best friend's dad did not believe in this, was not anywhere near as educated as his biological father, and he operated a small business. And he termed that dad as the rich dad, which he learned several life lessons from. Now, what is important here is that Robert valued more the lessons that he learned from his rich friend's dad than the lessons that he learned from his father, because living in the household, he had first-hand information to see that what his dad was doing, and when he compared notes to his rich friend's dad, realized that he preferred and the teachings of his rich dad was much more beneficial than his biological poor dad. Now, as I mentioned before, there are many gems and lessons that are to be gathered from this book. However, in the interest of time, I'm only going to be focusing on the top 5 things that jumped out or stood out to me. I am going to be telling you as well the one that has had the most impact in my life in terms of my journey towards my financial success. So stay tuned for that as well. Now, the first thing that I'm going to be looking at is that education is critical. And when I say education here, I mean education about money. And it is not in a school setting or background that Robert emphasized the most importance here. He emphasized that it is real world life experience and teaching that is critical for you to develop the skill in how to manage money. And this is what he got from his rich friend's dad. And it is also emphasized here that even if it is that you have to volunteer your service to get the proper education or to get the teachings where money is concerned, then you need to do it. Yes, the black and white, the academics is important for you to learn those things, but nothing teaches you better than the real life experiences. And that is what he got from immersing himself with his rich dad. He also worked for him and offered his time, so therefore he could spend more time around this rich dad so he could pick up more lessons. And that's what we need to do. It also extrapolates in our life in terms of who we hang around. If Robert was able to pick up so much information and valuable information rather in spending time with his rich dad, it is saying to us as well that we need to take careful note of who we spend our time with, because it is going to determine our future success. Now, what I'm going to be doing in this content as well is I'm going to be relating this information to my real life. And for this point, this is where I picked up the habit of starting more intentional investment. One thing is that I stopped keeping my money in the regular savings account and sought more high interest yielding savings account just for the basic savings. And also I started to dive into index funds and certificates of deposits, because that is a teaching of Robert that, hey, start building your experience and start investing. The next most critical thing, and this is what had the most resonance in my life, and it is this point number 2: assets versus liabilities. Now, we have been brought up and told that certain things are assets when they are not, and certain things that we thought before were assets are actually liabilities. Now, let's look at assets. Assets are things that generate income that actually gives you a cash flow, such as rental property, businesses, stocks, and bonds. While liabilities are things that you are constantly spending on, and they detract or they take away from your disposable income or your savings. And this can be a mortgage, a car debt, car loans, even credit card bills would be seen as liabilities. Now, with that definition, the main thing that I learned, which is a bit controversial, but I don't mind, you can put your comments in the box below, that a house in and of itself can very well be a liability, whereas we were taught growing up that a house is always an asset. Now, it can be an asset as well as it can be a liability. It is how you manage this possession. Now, if it is that the house is a rental property, or in general it creates some type of cash flow, then the house or that property is an asset. If it is that the only thing that you are doing is to be residing in this property and you are constantly paying on maintenance, mortgage, repairs, then the house is a liability by the definition that I stated earlier, because, hey, it is costing you and there's nothing that is coming back to you. My real life situation is that the first house that I bought was actually a major liability. Biggest mistake possibly of my financial investments. Now, when I realized that this house was truly a liability because I was paying a hefty mortgage every month and nothing else is coming in, I started, after reading Robert Kiyosaki's book, that I started to turn this property into an asset. I started to work the property itself. Whether I raised livestock, I raised crop on that property, but I decided that, hey, I needed to turn it into an asset, hence bringing a cash flow. I even started the process of signing up this property on Airbnb, but I quitted it midway because, hey, I started to get nervous about having strangers in and around my family, because it was not designed in a way that I could have a guest staying that they were totally isolated. They would have to be interacting with my family, and I did not like that idea too much, so I stopped the process. But hey, key point here is to identify in your life what are assets, what are liabilities. Try to limit as much liabilities as possible while you grow your assets. In other words, you grow your cash flow. Critical point here from the Rich Dad Poor Dad. Next key thing that I learned here is how to leverage, and that is using other people's money. And this is something that Robert Kiyosaki strongly believed in terms of never using his own money for investment. Now, Robert's belief here is that you should save your funds for other investments that can yield higher returns, but if there are certain things that you needed to invest in, like real estate, he totally disagrees with using your savings or your liquidity to purchase these properties. This is where he says to use other person's money by going to financial institutions and getting a loan, and then it is that you use that loan to invest in other things. Now, the critical thing here that he points out, however, is that you must do the comparison analysis to make sure that the returns you are getting from this investment exceeds the interest rate and the loan payments that you are making. Therefore, at a net effect, you will be gaining and having a net gain in terms of cash flow. But this is a very important point that he has made in the book, that he always believes in doing good debt, not bad debt, but always accruing good debt, leveraging that debt so you can earn an income, earning a profit from this investment. However, I benefited from this lesson. This is where 0% APR credit cards have been critical in terms of the growth in my business. Now, if it is that you get a credit card with a 0% APR for up to 18 months, sometimes you get up to 21 months, This is interest-free money that you can then invest in things. Just make sure, however, that you are able to repay this amount by the time that this 0% APR expires. And then the profit that you have made can pay off the credit card so that you basically had capital to start up your business at a 0% interest rate. The fourth strong lesson from this book that I learned, and if you're joining us later, we're talking about The Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, is to build multiple streams of income. Robert's advice here is that never depend on one stream of income. And he started off this lesson by saying that if you're in a 9-to-5, you will never get rich or wealthy just from the income of that 9-to-5, but that you need to start side hustles and other gigs so that you will have the multiple streams of income to finance your lifestyle. One example here is if that you are a teacher in an education system, that you can start a side gig. For example, you could be teaching lessons, private lessons, and earn an extra income. The rule here, however, is that once your side hustle or your side gig reaches a certain level that it is equal to or maybe 75% of your 9-to-5 salary, then it is time to transition to that side hustle, because you investing more time in the side hustle will allow you to easily surpass your 9-to-5 income, and then you will be able to manage your time more. Another strong point from Robert Kiyosaki is that you should never trade your time for money, because time is a limited resource. You should then have other persons or other resources working for you so that while you're laying in bed, even sleeping, you are generating an income and cash is flowing into you. Now, my concern here, I have done this in the past and I have invested in multiple things, but I do find that you can be stretched thin, so you have to be careful. And you might have heard the saying, jack of all trades, master of none. And that is my problem, that you might never become an expert in any one area of your business because you are stretched thin. And you have to be careful. If you are invested in areas that you are not very familiar with, then you could fail in those businesses because you need to know about the business that you're investing in. When you go to a certain level of wealth, yes, you can do venture capitalism, but you still have to research and keep tabs, especially in the initial section, before you invest so that you are guaranteed an income. The fifth and last point that I gathered from this book is that mindset matters and your mindset is critical. There is a saying by Confucius that he who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually correct. So therefore, if you tell yourself that you can and you develop that positive mindset, then putting it into the universe, you will inevitably become successful at whatever you are pursuing. Therefore, instead of having a negative mindset and more focusing on the risk that might be associated with a business venture, Robert teaches here that do your research, do your studying, enter the business, educated decisions are made, but overall have a positive mindset and you'll be more successful in your business. And there you have it, my friends. My 5 critical things that I took away from Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Now, if it is that you have read the book and you picked up certain key points that I have not mentioned in this content, please put it in the comment section below that we can all learn. If you have not read this book as yet, I strongly recommend that you read this book so that you can grow more in terms of your personal finance. And if you have read it and you did not know that there is a version for teens, order it now so that your young ones can start developing the right mindset so that they can know the importance of money and how to manage their personal finance. Remember that they might be getting an allowance now from you, so it is never too early for them to start managing money, and what better time than now for them to start doing so. Now, as usual, my friends, if you have learned anything from this content, even one thing, please like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with someone else, a parent even, that you know might benefit from this information as we go towards our financial success. Thank you, and see you in the next video.